everyone, and welcome to another interview on Human. Today, we will be interviewing Adrecus Culbreath, a man who has dedicated his life to understanding neuroscience and human behavior. Today, we will be finding out his story. Without further ado, let us bring him on. There we go.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, cool.
What's going on?
Hey,
Good,
bless,
good.
bless, man. I was like, man, I hope we ain't messing up right here, man. This one for the books.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you, man. I really do appreciate you coming on and taking the time to speak with me 100%. And yes, without further ado, I'll just jump right in.
Okay.
Please, for those who don't know you, please let them know where you're originally from.
I am born and raised out of Atlanta, Georgia, the Peach State.
Okay.
Yes, Atlanta, Georgia native.
Indeed, indeed. So what was it like growing up in Atlanta? Please tell us. I mean, we've seen the show. I know some people have definitely seen the show, but from an Atlanta native, it would be cool to hear what that was like, outside of what we see on TV.
Well, I mean, of course, the history of Atlanta isn't a secret, from Freaknik to the home of the most, I would say, uh, a lot of newfound black wealth now. For me, growing up it was rough.
Mm,
We'll just be all the way realistic about it. It was rough, but it was rough. But I had fun. I would definitely do myself a disservice if I didn't say that I didn't have fun. I had fun, but it was rough.
mm,
I am grateful for most of the things that I've encountered. Uh, a lot of experiences, a lot of people that I've met along my trajectory that still have a dear spot in my heart to this day.
mm.
Um, and anybody who experienced Atlanta, Georgia, then and now, I mean, you know what it is, and it's literally whatever you make it. It's easy to develop a life that is harmonious, and it's easy to fall short of a lot of accessibility that isn't so harmonious, so to speak.
Mm.
So I've been on both sides of the track, but this go around, I'm definitely staying on the upper side of things for sure.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I like the way that you said harmonious. I just don't want to jump ahead in the interview, but I do want to actually kind of visit this as more like a side piece, right?
Okay.
About the harmonious living. You say that it's easy, and I know there's a lot of people that would be like, well, if it's easy, how would I go about doing that? You don't have to necessarily get into details right now, but I wanted you to expand on that. Like, what would that look like, and what did that transition look like for you from when you was young to when you were older, and how do you define harmonious?
I didn't discover any inch of harmonious until I truly understood who I was, and I truly understood that it was more than okay to be my authentic self. Now, before I knew that I could be my authentic self, there was nothing but frustration, confusion, turmoil, inauthenticity, of course, which will be the result invariably for anybody that isn't authentic, right? And I just recorded some material on this literally, and I just posted it on my TikTok. But you will not experience any inch of a harmonious life until you're internally fulfilled. And the only way you can become fully internally fulfilled is when you're authentic. And
Mm,
I think today, in today's world, I think with so much personas, with so much people that has bought into this idea of faking it until you make it, so to speak, I think we're in a world today where it's actually cool to not be yourself, and it's uncool to be yourself,
mm,
which is so crazy to me. But at
mm,
27 years old, nobody can tell me otherwise. And I think some of the great pioneers who have elevated their lives and became the best version of themselves would say that the blueprint of developing a harmonious life or living a harmonious life literally starts with being authentic and being your authentic self and knowing who you truly are. 100%.
Mm, mm. Why do you think people invest so much time in being their unauthentic self?
Here's what I will say, and I've been a victim of it as well too. I never want to come off as if, and I never do this in none of my material. I always use myself as the basis.
Mm,
For me, right? For me, being in a certain environment where talking a certain way, walking a certain way, thinking a certain way is acceptable. And
mm,
if you're not doing those things, you wouldn't be accepted, right?
mm,
For somebody who's vulnerable, it would only make sense to fall in line for what's to be accepted, right?
mm,
On to your question. I think people put a lot of time, energy, and vitality in not being who they truly are because they've sold so many people on this persona, right?
mm,
So if I project to be a certain way to you for a sustained period of time, if you've developed this thought or this idea of who you think that I am, right?
mm,
For so
mhm,
long, why in the hell would I show my true self that isn't congruent to who you thought I was? Now I'm coming off as not authentic. When
mm,
already I'm not authentic by being who you think that I am. I'm already not authentic by being who you think I am. But I've sold you this persona. I've sold you this idea. I've sold you this identity, or what I like to call a lie identity, right? I've
mm,
sold you this lie identity. You've bought into it. Now this has became who I became for so long. So to answer your question, I think people are so content with not being who they truly are because they've went so long with selling this false persona to people. And I'm using
mm,
myself as a prime example. I'm using myself as a prime example. And I know there's other people out there that experience it and go through it. They probably can't communicate it the way I do, but I am telling you right now, this is the overall result, and this is the overall way of most people, regardless if they are aware of it or not, you know. And
mhm,
again, I'm using myself as an example.
mhm,
I've tried my absolute best to live up to what people thought that I
mm,
was. I've tried my absolute best and my hardest, put a lot of vitality, put a lot of energy
mhm,
into who I thought people wanted me to be, right? And the result of that invariably will always be the moment that I show my true colors, now I come off as inauthentic.
mm,
So again, to answer your question, I think people prolong that. I think people prolong that process because to expose who they truly are will come off as somebody that isn't authentic. And who wants to walk around or who wants to be seen as a fake or a phony or putting up a facade, you know?
mm, mhm. Funny thing is, I can understand what you're saying, and I want to piggyback off that from like maybe a
Okay.
slightly different angle. So I meet somebody, let's say, right? And I had to discover this kind of through so much human interaction. So I meet somebody, and two things as our relationship develops that I have to keep in mind that I think people forget. One thing is that people change,
Right.
right? That's the first thing. People go through things, things affect people a certain way. It's very hard for people to stay the same. And if they do stay the same, I bet that no evolution is possibly happening, right? Just to challenge that area. But then
Right.
let's shift over to a word that I'm just going to make up right now. It's not real, but I'll make it up for the sake of conversation. Dynamicism, right?
Okay.
Like how somebody can be dynamic, right? How many multi-dimension or how many sides do they have within their personality? And I think that sometimes what we do is, let's say, like in the professional world, I would project the professional side of me, right?
Okay.
And then when I'm outside of the professional world, I then project the other side of me, whatever that may be. Let's use street, for example. Thank goodness for me, I have who I am is who I am regardless of where I'm at. I may lean into one side more heavier than another in certain cases, but most of the complete package of who I am is usually shown almost uh upfront,
Right.
right? So I just wanted to kind of say that real quick, that I think that's another thing that people should think about is how people change.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of how people change, that people are dynamic. You know, they may not have been able to show you what they felt like you could take from them. So they showed you a small portion just to see what you can take, right?
And
So,
in my situation, it was truly just about living in survival mode
mm,
and horrendous circumstances, catastrophic experiences, and a toxicity of an environment, to say the least. It was almost mandatory that you get with the program, for lack
mm,
of a better term,
mm,
due to survival, right? And man, when I tell you, man, that man, when I tell you, there is nothing more liberating than being able to walk congruent to who you truly are. There's nothing more liberating than being able to say, hey, this is who I am. And whoever I'm for, I'm for. Whoever I'm not for, that's perfectly fine. And I think for so
mm,
long, that's what I was afraid of, right? I was afraid of people to hear me say certain words when everybody else was talking like this, right? I was afraid of dressing a certain way because everybody that came from that same geography was dressing like this,
mm,
right? And nobody wants to be seen as the outcast. But watch this though. It wasn't until my time of arriving now that I realized that, hold on a minute, the great innovators do not care, have little care about being understood. Great leaders have a very little care about standing in line. Great leaders care very little about being approved. And to be able to stand before you now, being 100% internally fulfilled, man, I don't regret anything. I don't regret
mm.
anything, literally. Most people have, oh, I regret, I don't regret anything. Literally, I don't regret anything, because the fact that I've been able to go through it intensely, making it out of that state of living or making it out of that environment and paying attention to the way I was living and how I was living and why I was living that way, to now I'm able to communicate so very precise what that is. Hopefully that somebody who is in that same frame of life will be able to be amplified and brought out of that due to me being able to say, hey, I know you can't really communicate what you're going through or what you're feeling or why you can't be your authentic self. And I'm here to explain to you why that is. And always using myself as an example. So man, I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful. Even just dialoguing with you now, it's kind of hard not to think back in retrospect. Man, I'm so grateful, man. I'm just so grateful. And before I say anything else, I told myself that I was going to do this first. But when we get to talking, man, it's like a phenomenon. Before I say anything, I definitely wanted to say publicly that what you are doing is it is so amazing, so amazing. Not only is it amazing, it's inspiring to say the least. And I say that because speaking back on, okay, well, why people aren't truly being their authentic self.
Mm.
Looking at you right now and your consistency of what you've been doing and what you've been building, bro, your human expression is literally being exposed and catalyzed through your work. And
Thank
let me
you.
tell you something, bro.
I appreciate
Let
that.
me tell you
Thank you.
something, bro. No, I really, truly mean this, bro. Like, what you're doing is not only a service to yourself, because I'm pretty sure right now you're experiencing some type of internal justice. I'm pretty sure you're experiencing, as Aristotle would say, like, you're living in your telos. The telos is your purpose, your divine, ever greater purpose. I'm pretty sure you're experiencing that, because right now you're in your mode. You're in your mode. And when I say in your mode, I mean you're literally in that state where you're expressing who you truly are and what you truly represent. So from somebody that knows that this is what so many people refrain from somebody that went through that and was so afraid to do that, bro, I'm sitting here literally telling you, bro, like, bro, you are the GOAT, bro. You're the GOAT. It's not about me. It's not about me, bro. Like literally, bro, what you are doing. And let me tell you something. I love the brand name, bro. I just love human, bro. I love it, bro. I truly, truly love it, because these aspects of life that people grow through, and they have no type of, you know, knowledge about what's going on. You know, it's platforms like this, is things that you're doing that are a great service to people, that give people a better understanding that it's okay. Why is it okay, Adrecus? Because everybody is human. So I say that to say, I wanted to give you your flowers up front, my guy, and I just want to encourage you to keep going. I also want to say congratulations on where you're about to go in advance. And I'm overly honored to be here providing great value for you, bro. And I'm just grateful, bro. Grateful. So grateful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm at a loss for words. I will say, just like your story, it hasn't been necessarily an easy journey, but we're both here. And one thing I want to point out is this platform cannot exist without people like yourself that are willing
Right.
to come on and share their story. And I think that's equally important, right?
Right.
So I just never want to overlook that. And I always want to try to stay at least modest,
Mm-hmm.
in the same sense. But regardless of that, I wanted to continue and thank you for giving me my flowers. But I
Yes.
still have a lot of questions to go
Yes.
and I would like to continue. And one of the questions I have that are not necessarily listed, but recently came to mind is what was a tough situation that you had to overcome that started your transition from where you were to where you are now?
It was a period in my life that I literally questioned my manhood, literally. And I'm gonna demystify what I mean by that. I remember being with the mother of my child way back when, right? And in this relationship, I lacked. I mean, when I tell you, so much insecurities were in that relationship and within myself. I had never felt anything like this in my life. So insecure. Well, why was you so insecure, Drake? Because you're tall, you come off as if you've got everything, or whatever the case may be. But that insecurity was catalyzed because I lacked so many attributes of what a real man was.
Mm,
I lacked it. I mean, so much I lacked. Perfect example. Speaking back to being in survival mode and coming from living in that mode, we're just going to call it that mode, right?
mm,
You get caught up in this idea of what you think a man is, right? Man, bro, when I tell you, bro,
mm,
listen here. You get caught up in the idea of what people sell you on of what a man is. Oh, what a man. Well, a man is a man that has multiple women and lies in the waters of being promiscuous, right?
mm.
You get sold on this idea of what a man is. But the moment that I was in this relationship with this woman, being a man and my true nature of a man was exposed, and I had so many insecurities because it will be situations where the tire would go flat and I didn't know how to change a tire. And for another man, a manly man, so to speak, coming along and changing the tire, it did something to me, bro. It did something to me. And I would have these feelings of feeling like inadequate. And I'm like, why do I feel this way? Right? The light would go out, or you know, a fixture needed done, and I didn't have the right tools, and I didn't have the necessities as a man to fulfill these duties. So guess what? Another man had to come fulfill these duties for my lady. So in my mind, I had to observe what truly was I feeling and why. Observing what you feel is so, man, it's so very vital. So very vital and critical, to say the least. I had to sit back and observe, what are these feelings and why in the hell am I feeling like I'm less of a man? When so long of a period of my life, I thought that I was a man, right? So it was so much confusion, and I mean, it bro, all this was distorted, bro. I didn't know what was going on. So at that period, I had to literally sit back and analyze my life thoroughly. And the realization that I came to was, for so long, I had been sold a dream. For so long, I had been sold a lie. For so long, I had been living of what I thought a man was. But when it was time to be a man, I had little to no necessities, little to no nature of what a true man was, bro. Literally. And I think from this period is when my transition and when my time of becoming aware started. Because everything until up to that point had been false. It was a lie identity. It was a lie identity. Bro, people do not understand the feeling of living a certain way or putting up this persona, and then you're finding out now that this persona can no longer keep you safe. So now you're forced to truly become who you truly are. And I was so afraid of really becoming and really being honest with myself, saying, well, who am I truly? Like, who truly is Adrecus Culbreath? And that period, man, that period of my life was just so interesting, because this is when I really truly found out how important doing the work is. So, and people have this preconceived notion that doing the work or working on yourself is this psychological, you know, infraction, or I don't want to work on myself. Man, that's the overall objective of life. To work on yourself. Because the more I can understand myself, the more I give myself advantage in life. The more I understand myself, the more I understand why I think the way that I think. The more I understand myself, the more I understand why I do these things and why I don't do those things, right? So that period literally was where the transformation started.
I got another question for you.
Go ahead.
The other question is that I'm curious about is, and I think this is good. This is good. It's important too. But what is the definition of a real man, right? Like, I myself was going throughout life as of recent, and I see a lot of definitions to a lot of things as being warped.
Right.
And along that way, you kind of start to question things yourself. Like, well, what is a definition of a man? Like, I think certain definitions of a man was actually pretty toxic. You know, always holding emotions in, that's not good. You know, that's one example that I could point out.
Right.
But yeah, what is your definition? There's necessarily no right or wrong answer, but I'm just curious.
My perspective of what a real man is a provider, a protector, a nurturer, and a creature that is 100% in control of his emotions. A provider, a protector, a nurturer, and a creature that is always 100% invariably in control of his emotions. Because let me tell you something, a baby can lack control, and it's okay. A baby can lack self-control, it's okay. A woman can lack self-control, it's okay. Animals can lack control. It's okay. But as a man, we cannot afford and we shall not never get to a point in life where we cannot have self-control. It is a must.
Mm. Mm.
And so this is why I was experiencing that phase. Remember, what I thought a man was a provider. I didn't know how to provide the tire. I didn't know how to provide the tools to fix the hole. I didn't have these things. I didn't have no knowledge of these things.
Mm.
Here I am in a position to be a provider, finding out that I really truly don't know how to be a man, and I'm with a woman that's telling me in so many ways, be a man. Bro, that's so much confusion and frustration.
Mm. Mm. Interesting.
A provider, a protector, a nurturer, and a species that has to invariably keep self-control. That is my perspective and my meaning of a man.
Mm. That's a very interesting definition. It's a very good
Yes.
one too. I think a lot of men need to hear that altogether. And I think I want to just throw that out there. It doesn't mean that you have to know every last thing, but you should at least know certain things that would allow you to be the man that you hope to become, such as fixing a tire. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
you know, but I wanted to ask something in taking this into a little bit of a different direction. I
Okay.
know it could be a touchy subject. I myself, just a pretense, was adopted first. I didn't live with my adopted family up to 13, was given up, stayed in the street, went through a series of group homes. And then in my late teens, early 20s, actually, is when I went into the foster care system, which was pretty late, in my opinion, right? But nonetheless, I want to ask you, what did the foster care, or what was it like being in the foster care system?
It was my first glimpse of love.
Mm.
First glimpse of love, and it was my period where I knew I couldn't get comfortable.
Mm.
Being around complete strangers that showed me love in ways that most of the people that was blood related didn't even show me love. It was literally a great dose of joy. However, that feeling of knowing that this can be taken away at any given time was catastrophic.
Mm.
Catastrophic. So good on the side of being actually loved genuinely, bad on the perspective of knowing that this feeling and this dose of joy is only but temporary.
Mm. Wow. What did the foster care system teach you about life?
That people don't have to know you or be blood related to you to love you. And people from all walks and all different areas of aspects of life truly can mean a very, very, very a lot in your life.
Mm.
I don't have to be blood related to you to love you. And it also taught me that sometimes the closest ones to you won't be the ones that will highly support you and highly love you. Sometimes it is those that aren't blood related to you that will show you the most love. And as an entrepreneur, let's put it on the business aspect. I always say business rules are life rules, right? A
Mm.
lot of people have this, oh, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers. Well, as a businessman, strangers are going to be your best customers. Sometimes it is the people that are closest to you that won't support you at all. So instead of this preconceived notion of don't talk to strangers, no, I'm not going to, my son is right here. I'm not going to raise my son with the idea of don't talk to strangers. What I am going to raise him on is learn how to talk to strangers.
Mm.
Literally, business rules are life rules, and in life that is something that I learned specifically during that foster care period. That, man, it's people that are so different in geography that will love you and care for you and support you at the highest capacity,
Mm.
to the point where you would actually say to yourself, man, I wish you were blood related to me. literally. So that alone instilled in me, and I'm just grateful that God blessed me to be the type of person to take the good and the bad out of people and situations to cultivate me into a better person.
Mm.
So that situation alone is where I truly discovered that, hold on, just because somebody didn't come from where I come from, or just because somebody didn't birth me, doesn't mean that they're not worthy of loving me, and doesn't mean that they're not worthy of me loving.
Mm.
And I think when people expand their awareness, I think when people expand their perspective, I think when people expand their heart, man,
Mm.
people walk past people all day, every day that is literally waiting to love them unconditionally.
Wow.
People
Wow.
walk past people every day that are ready to support them effortlessly and still excellently. But people refrain from even putting themselves in that situation simply because, well, I don't know you, or you're not my family.
Mm. Mm.
Thinking like that and living a life like that not only keeps you limited, but you literally do yourself a disservice, because you're blocking the blessings that God may send you, but you wasn't open to receiving it simply because the geography wasn't familiar to you, or the talk wasn't familiar to you.
Mm.
I always say, bro, the world is my playground, bro. The world is my playground, bro. And anybody that I come in contact with, I want to have a piece of me with them. Hopefully a piece of me resonates with them. The world is my playground. I'm not confined here. I want to be, bro, the whole entire world is the everywhere is my playground, bro.
Mm.
Everywhere is my playground. And anybody that I meet, I want to instill some piece of Adrecus Culbreath within everybody. Everybody. Because the overall purpose of life is not to please God, or not to please people and serve God. It's absolute backwards. The purpose of life is to serve people, and that pleases God. So my
Mm.
life is an exemplification of being a service of people. My life is an exemplification of valuing everybody that I come in contact with.
Mm.
My life is an exemplification of looking at everybody through the lens of equanimity and equity.
Mm.
Period. Because us as human beings, we're no better than anybody else, and we're no less than anybody else. We're all equal. The
Mm.
moment that you judge somebody, you go into a state of being pompous, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go into a state of pomposity. The moment that you self-shame yourself, you go into a state of devaluing yourself. And neither one of those are authentic. The
Mm.
moment that you can come across somebody and actually see what they have in them is also in you, you have equanimity, and you have equity, and you're authentic. When you see people as if, and when you see people as they are you, and when you see a reflection of others in yourself. Period. And I think we're in a world today that most people see these people that have material possessions, and they think that, oh, well, I'll never be like that, or this, or I'm highly infatuated with this person. Whenever you're infatuated with something, you're going to resent the opposite.
Mm.
Period.
Mm.
So if I'm infatuated with this person that has everything, then I'm going to look down on the person that has nothing, right?
Mm.
Whatever you are infatuated with, you will invariably resent the opposite. If I'm infatuated with skinny women, then I'm going to resent women that may be clinically obese.
Mm.
Living a life like that, bro, keeps you inauthentic. The only way you can become authentic is to see people as the exact same. Nothing that is in anybody else isn't in you, and everything that is in you is in other people. Everything that is in other people is in you. So what people should do is see people that have these material possessions and a life that represents abundance. They should say, oh, they should have gratitude for that person and thank them well, but they should also say, well, the same thing that they have in them, I have within myself.
Mm.
The moment that you infatuate with somebody, the moment that you infatuate with somebody, you self-shame yourself. And the moment that you shame other people, you go into a state of being pompous or arrogant. And neither of the two will keep you authentic, period.
Mm. I see your son agrees.
Yes.
So I wanted to, when you're prepared, ask you another question. Take this interview in a slight different direction.
Take
I
a
think
shot.
this
I'm
is,
ready.
I think that this is an important topic to talk about for sure, for sure. So we're gonna dive a little deep in this.
Okay.
Um, but what I wanted to ask was, what led up during your journey in early in life? What led up to the incarceration period of your life? I did read that in your bio. I myself have also been locked up several times,
hmm
but I would like for you to definitely introduce us to that and then the impact that it had as well.
Being vulnerable, thinking that you are your circumstances,
Hmm.
being vulnerable and thinking that you are your circumstances. I say being vulnerable because when you're looking to be accepted, the
Mm,
whole ordeal is, well, if you want to be accepted, you have to move a certain way. You have to do certain things. You have to do the things that are accepted. And I fell into that trap.
mm,
Fell into
mm,
that trap. Literally. So again, in that survivor mode state of my life, that survivor mode, right? These are the things that you have to do if you want to stay out of danger or if you want to stay out of being criticized.
mm,
Well, I don't want to be criticized or I don't want to be looked at anything other than what the rest of the group is being perceived as. So I'm going to what? Get with the program, right?
mm,
Excuse me.
mm,
Literally. And it was in that period where, man, I just didn't know who I didn't see the potential then. I didn't see it. I'm grateful for that entire experience, but I was so blind to who I was back then. And if I
mm,
could go back and tell my younger self in that period anything, I would say, literally, I would go back and say, find out who you truly are very, very fast. Very fast.
mm,
Very
mm,
fast.
mm.
Literally.
What is a misconception that people have about incarceration?
The misconception that people have about incarceration, I think one of the most talked about ones in certain industries would be, if you fall in the lines of incarceration, then you're labeled. Another
Mm,
misconception would be, well, if you go one time, then you will invariably go back again. And that will be your destiny, right?
mm,
I'm living proof that both of those are void. I haven't seen a jail cell in I don't know how long.
mm,
Literally.
mm,
And to be completely honest with you, I've probably developed more wisdom incarcerated than I've ever experienced being free up until my point of arriving at a state of awareness.
mm,
Literally.
mm,
Having the time to read, having the time to do a thorough self-analysis, having the time to discover that, why is it that all of us strangers, men with this color, why is it that we can be here, hold hands, pray together, love each other, support each other, and we have no knowledge of who we are, what we have no type of connection, but when we're in this situation, we're the perfect family. We're expressing the highest degree of what support is and what it means to be your brother's keeper.
mm,
Why isn't this exemplified when we're not in these circumstances? I never did understand that. I never
mm,
did understand that.
mm,
But it was in those times of incarceration where I came to the realization and came to the conclusion that, oh, black men want love too. They probably won't say, but all black men want love. All black men, we want love. We want support. Now, are we openly verbalizing it? No. But yeah, we want love and support. And we want nurture. We want to be nurtured and we want to be cared for and we want to be looked at as if we're somebody special. We want to be prayed for, right? I know this. And knowing this is why I am so relentless when it comes down to expressing my love for my brothers. I'm not here to ever hurt my brothers. I'm only here to help my brothers. So I don't, man, listen, man, listen. I'm overly obsessive. I'm monomaniacal about instilling what every man, every race, what every man needs to become the best version of themselves. I don't play about that because what's up, man? What's up, man? Because I know what men go through. I know what men go through, especially the ones that come from my geography. I know what we go through. And it has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with race, because in those circumstances, I've been around different races, different ethnicities, and expressed the same amount of love and had the same amount of love expressed to me. So these misconceptions and these preconceived erroneous notions, I don't even pay them any mind. I don't even pay them any mind. I'm not in a race war. I'm not worried about politics. I'm not worried about my life isn't where it is because of this race, and all of that is erroneous to me.
Can I ask you a question? What does,
yes,
for those who don't know, what does erroneous mean?
Erroneous means absurd, ridiculous. Literally. Come on, man.
Yeah, hold on. How does incarceration? Oh, hello.
Say hey, buddy.
How does incarceration shape a person's mind?
How does incarceration could shape a person's mind? Because you have some people that go through there and they still don't learn, and they come out the same way they went in, right? So how it could shape an individual, number one, in certain situations, it can show you who's truly there for you, number one. And in other situations, it can expose to you that, man, you mean to tell me that all I had to do was sit down and isolate myself before I really could access that higher cognitive function of my brain and be able to see where I went wrong? You mean to tell me if I just would have isolated myself and had more time to myself, I could have stopped myself from being in this situation? So don't get it twisted now. Physical incarceration is no different than mental incarceration or emotional incarceration. It's the same thing. Because when you're physically incarcerated, you don't have access, right? When you're emotionally incarcerated, when you're mentally incarcerated, you don't have access. When you're physically incarcerated, you're not free. When you're mentally incarcerated, when you're emotionally incarcerated, guess what? You're not free. You're not free. It's literally the absolute same, literally. So even before I was physically incarcerated, I think I ended up becoming physically incarcerated because I was already mentally and emotionally incarcerated. Becoming emotionally incarcerated, becoming mentally incarcerated is what led up to me being physically incarcerated. So I've experienced all aspects of being incarcerated or being confined, as we should say. If I would have been liberated mentally, if I would have been liberated emotionally, I would never have seen a jail cell a day in my life. I can assure you that. Mental incarceration, mental confinement, mental servitude, mental bondage is what led up to the physical servitude, the physical bondage, and the physical enslavement. So it's somebody that's out there right now that's never have experienced the physical incarceration, but they're mentally incarcerated. It's no different. You're not free. You don't have access. And when you don't have access, you're not free. And you will not experience a harmonious life. You will not experience 1% of a true fulfilled life until you are set free. Period. And the thing about being physically confined is there's a lot of times where you're by yourself and there's nothing but silence. Silent. In physical incarceration, you're in situations where you're kind of forced to deal with being in silent. But watch this. Am I the only one that find it ironic that the words silent and listen are spelled with the same words?
Letters. Gotcha.
So being physically incarcerated, I had time to be in silent, to listen to my higher self, to listen to what the higher deity was trying to tell me. Same, nothing changes from the people that are out there in the world that are mentally confined. They want to know how they can be free. Go lock yourself in your house and get away from all the noise. Get in silence so you're able to listen. And we're just in a world today where people value being in noise and people rather be, you know, in the static versus being in silent and having those times where you're literally away from all the noise. Research states, and you guys can go look it up, being in silent literally is what gives us the power to access the higher cognitive function of the brain, which is specifically the prefrontal cortex. Being in silent. This is why people meditate. Being in silent is just a form of meditation. Being in silent is just a form of meditation. Literally. So when people think about meditation, they have this idea that they have to be in this yoke. No. Take some time and just be in silent. Go to your happy place. Go to your prayer closet. Leave the party. Go to the house. Lock your door and just be in silent. Because when you're in, and I truly learned this from being incarcerated. When you're still, when you're stationary, right? This is the way that you can. I hate that I had to go to that point to understand it, right? When you're still, when you're stationary, when you're in silent, you're able to access the prefrontal cortex. What is the prefrontal cortex? The executive center of the brain that is responsible for all cognitive goal achieving behavior. Literally.
I think another question that comes to mind is, do you think that people notice the difference between rehabilitation and incarceration and the effects that it really has? Because I sat back and I was watching this video on YouTube about the system and how it's structured. And I oftentimes think about, is the incarceration really rehabilitating people the way that it could, right? Or not the way that it could, honestly. The way that what they intend when they send people to jail and they have that intent excuse me, of being like, hey, we want you to come out a better citizen for society. It's like, where's the rehabilitation at? So I just wanted
There
to
is
ask you the
no,
difference.
the only form of rehabilitation that you have while being incarcerated is deep embedded within yourself if you choose to. That place in no way, shape, or form is trying to rehabilitate anybody. However, a individual can go in those and can go in those circumstances and be put in that situation and make the cognitive choice and the free choice to say, I am not going to leave out of this place or out of this circumstance or this situation the same way that I came in it. So rehabilitation in incarceration is completely up to the individual that's experiencing it. And you're looking at living proof of that right now. It wasn't guards in there that was giving people Bibles. They would come search your room. They would throw your Bibles on the floor.
Wow.
That's not rehabilitation.
That's not.
That's not rehabilitation at all. So it takes a very, 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 very higher functioning person that is well aware to say, you know what? Let me take this time to see how I can better myself. Let me take this time to see where I went wrong. Let me take this time to see how can I become the best version of myself, because I have nothing but time. And in a world today where people have so much value on everything except the right thing is like time, man, it's man, come on, man. It's real. It's real, literally. And again, I'm overly grateful. Overly grateful. It wasn't until I was incarcerated till I read a book that changed my whole life. And that book was The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. That book changed my life. I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my son that I'm holding here right now. I wouldn't have this beautiful young man if I never read that book.
Repeat the book again.
The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. He's also the author of the book, The Four Agreements.
Interesting. Have you ever heard of a book called The Way of the Superior Man?
Yes, by David Dieter.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I also found another book called Happiness is the Way by Dwayne W. Dyer, Dr. Dyer. That was an amazing book as well. And another
Wayne
recommendation
Dyer.
I have, Wayne Dyer. Yeah, there you go, Wayne Dyer. And one last book I read. It's not that I read only these three books, but Diane Ackerman and Alchemy of Mind, extremely good and presented very well in terms of
somebody recommended that book to me, but I never got it.
Oh, and Alchemy of Mind is a beautiful book, beautifully written, amazing, man. I mean, it really breaks down the mind in a poetic sense, excuse me.
Right.
But I wanted to kind of rewind, step away from incarceration and let's look at some of the reasons how people even get incarcerated. And I wanted to ask, like, how do we prevent the youth from being misguided? I think that's an important place to start, especially looking at the way society is nowadays and people looking for acceptance. So,
in a world today where the youth literally have a large decline in cognitive behaviors, it's tough to say, and it breaks my heart to have those words come out of my mouth, but that's why I do what I do, to be completely honest with you. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I've been doing what I do for over a decade. Over a decade, I've had this strong inclination to reconstruct the minds of the younger generation. And I'm not just talking. This is proof. This is public. My work is public. This is over a decade, and I'm still at it. I'm still at it. So it's kind of my duty to see what the world is coming to and what the younger generation is demonstrating. And to be quite honest, it's not looking too good. And I think what would be more of a service to those individuals is platforms like this, in which what you're doing now. Which is why I completely commend you for what you're doing. Because most people look at it as a podcast. Well, that's the surface level of looking at it. But really, this is a therapeutic avenue for people to feel safe. This is a safe haven. This is a place where people can can say, you know what, I'm not weird, or I'm not strange, or it's okay to be an outcast, or it's okay that I made that mistake. It's okay that I went down this trajectory of life. Why is it okay? Because everybody is human. So I think it's literally going to take more stand-up guys like yourself, like myself. I think it's going to take more of having what's truly needed be publicized more than what's not needed to be publicized. Bro, it's too many things that are accessible to the younger generation that literally takes a toll on their cognitive behaviors and their cognitive functioning. We're in a day and age where there is a large decline of cognitive behaviors. Not even just with younger generation, bro, adults. What are those cognitive behaviors? Well, they sound so simple and so elementary, but if you think about it, if people were to truly possess and demonstrate these attributes, bro, the world would be so lovely. Delaying gratification is one. Higher functioning of the prefrontal cortex. Showing empathy, an attribute that stems from the prefrontal cortex. Personality expression, how we just talked about being your authentic self. This is an attribute that stems from the highest function of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. What's another cognitive behavior? Planning and discerning and proper problem solving. This is attributes and aspects that stem from the prefrontal cortex. What's another cognitive functioning? Being able to respond instead of reacting. Because reacting, trauma reacts, intention responds. Trauma reacts and intention responds. So these cognitive behaviors, they sound so elementary, but these are literally attributes that if people were to possess these, bro, relationships would be so harmonious. The world would be so lovely. People would, bro, the world would be amazing. So I've literally devoted my life to not only help people understand why they think and do and feel the way that they do, but it's also my duty, and I've devoted my life to expose to individuals that it doesn't matter where you've been, it doesn't matter what you've believed to be true, it doesn't matter what lies that you have bought at any given time. At any given time, you can literally change the entire trajectory of your life. This isn't woo-woo, this isn't theory, this isn't motivation. I'm not trying to motivate anybody. This is literally true, firm facts. Us as human beings, we have something called neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to develop new habits and break old habits and function at an entire new way at any given time. So due to the fact that we have neuroplasticity, human beings are not awarded to say they can't do something, or they don't know how to do something, or they can't learn this. Yes, you can, because God has blessed the human being with some of the most ever greater aspects that are known to man. In the words of Jim Rohn, he says, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. So the most important quest to embark on in life, it isn't math, it isn't studying business, it isn't studying the music industry, it's the study of yourself. Because if I can better understand an exam, I have a better chance at passing it. Would you agree? If I have a better understanding of the distance that I'm driving, I can have a better understanding of how much gas I need in my vehicle, right? Would you agree? If I have a better understanding of love, then I have a better chance at having a successful marriage. Would you agree? If I have a better understanding of myself as a human being, I have a better chance and a higher competitive advantage of creating a life by design and not by default. So when you have these these self-help or these motivational speaker guys that's out here getting paid to tell people, oh, to think positive. Well, we have to analyze that. Sometimes people don't even know how to think positive. Sometimes people don't even, we're in a world where people don't even know why they think the way that they think. People don't know where their thoughts stem from. So to tell somebody to think positive that have no type of awareness of where their thoughts stem from anyway is like telling somebody who's never flew a plane before to fly safe. It's erroneous. It's erroneous. So studying human behavior, studying neuropsychology, studying psychology, period. You know, I've literally put more skin in the game, and I've devoted my life to this journey. To this journey, because I feel as though if I can help people better understand themselves, oh man, it's a wrap. And I'm on this journey to help millions. Every night I write on my goal sheet. I do not go to sleep without writing on my goal sheet. And one of those goals are, I am overly thankful and grateful for impacting millions of lives. Period. Bro, we're God's greatest creation, bro. And I think we're in a world today where so many people are just cool with being comfortable and just settling. When you don't have to. You don't have to. We're in a world today where people think success is happiness and happiness is success, when it's not. I'm reading a book that's called Think Like a Monk. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. It's a book called Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And in the book, he has a quote stated from Jim Carrey. And that quote says, I wish everybody could have everything that they desire possession-wise so they can see that it's not the answer. I wish everybody could have all the houses, the cars, the watches, the jewelry, the bank account balance that they overly desire so they can truly see that it's not the answer. So I think if people were to stop listening to their favorite rapper and start being more aware of these people that have elevated their lives in a more righteous way and catch the signals that they're transmitting down, we have a better, bro. We have a better opportunity and a better chance at getting a competitive advantage in the world, bro. And that's all I'm about.
While we're on the subject of this, I wanted to also kind of jump into another part where I wanted to ask, how did you get into youth empowerment? Earlier in the conversation, you said you've been doing this for a decade, especially helping the youth. So
Yes.
what did that journey look like when it first started?
It started when I was first incarcerated, when I seen so many 13, 12, 14, 15 years old individual young men that literally didn't have no type of self-control, didn't have nobody loving them, didn't have anybody setting examples for them, and being young and still aware and so much wisdom. Even then, I was able to say, man, something ain't right. Something isn't right. Being told all my life, Adrecus, you have a way with your words. Adrecus, you are a master at communicating. Well, I wanted to put that to the test, and I wanted to take that skill that God blessed me with and use it in a way that I felt was really needed. It isn't that people don't want to change their lives around. It isn't that people don't want to understand why they are the way that they are. You just don't have people that's able to communicate it. When you're able to communicate what's going on with people better than they can, oh, you're cooking with grease now. The moment that I can communicate to you your problem better than you can understand it and communicate it, you're gonna listen to me. You're gonna take my advice, because I'm able to communicate what's going on with you better than you can.
Hello.
Want to say hey? Say hey.
Hello.
He's in my hey.
That's funny. That's funny. Um, so that was really funny.
Right.
You held him up. He actually said hi. That's funny.
Uh,
Um, so what is your definition of philanthropy, and how did that also unfold in your life as well?
my definition of philanthropy is simple. It is being of utmost service to people because
Mm,
that's the overall purpose of life. Period.
mm,
Wealth says, how can I advance others? Poverty says, how can I advance myself? There is no greater act in the world. There is no greater accomplishment in the world than inspiring others, than being of service to others. Period.
mm,
And before we can be a service to our community, the first we have to start with being a service to our immediate family.
mm,
So philanthropy to me would be, to be honest, I think they need to patent that word to something else other than philanthropy. I think it needs to be something else.
mm.
Just purpose. Purpose. And I'm always looking for opportunities to step in my philanthropy walk. But
Mm.
every day is philanthropy for me. Every day. Every day.
How do you define purpose?
How do I define purpose?
Hmm.
You have passion and you have purpose. Your passion is what you're good at.
Hmm.
Your purpose is that thing that you intrinsically have a drive to do, whether if you're getting an external reward for it or not.
Mm.
Period. When you can't wake up and do something and you can't seem to get that thing off your mind, congratulations, you found your purpose.
Mm.
And this is what's called autotelia. Autotelia is a driving force that you have for something simply because of the activity alone itself gives you a high sense of satisfaction, regardless and to the exclusion of any outside rewards.
Mm.
Your purpose is your highest value. The lower you go down on your values, the more motivation you need. People need to stop this whole motivation thing. Motivation is what's keep holding a lot of people back. Look at the word
Mm.
motive. The word motive means reason. So when people are out here looking for motivation, they're looking for a reason outside of them for them to take action.
Mm.
Purpose and inspiration is what gets the job done, not motivation.
Mm.
I don't
I say
need motive.
discipline as well. I say
Exactly.
discipline as well, yeah.
When you're living
Interesting.
in your purpose and when you're doing your purpose, you don't need motivation. I don't need motivation to read, research, and experience wisdom and disseminate information. I'm going to do that regardless. I don't need motivation for that. Now, things that are lowest on my value that I have a little priority on, I might need motivation, like working out. I need some motivation. But for that purpose, for that telos, for that divine mission, I don't need motivation.
Mm.
For my purpose, I don't need motivation. Because just like autotelia, the act in the thing alone gives you a high degree of satisfaction to the exclusion of any external rewards.
Mm.
So I read, research, disseminate information all day long. It's my highest value. And when you're living by your highest value, you make time, find time, and spend time doing what's your highest value. Your purpose you don't put off. Your purpose you don't postpone. Your purpose you don't get distracted. You only develop discipline. When people say, "Oh, I don't got discipline. I need discipline." People have discipline. People just have discipline in the things that they are disciplined in.
Mm.
So if you're getting distracted and you feel that, "Oh, I can't focus," you probably can't focus because you're either doing something that you're not inspired to do or you're doing something that people think you should be doing and you're subjugating yourself to that. It's not truly what you want to do. It's not truly your purpose. Because when you're exemplifying what your true purpose is, you do not get distracted.
I also
Period.
want to touch on a subject that I think is very interesting about purpose. Um, I get that people like that's like I used to hear a phrase where people like if you love your job, basically you'll yeah, it won't feel like a job and you'll just love doing it every day, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
truth is that's not the way human emotion works, right? Sometimes we're going to feel not as much into something on one day as we were maybe in the past, or vice versa, right? We start off feeling a little shaky about it, and then our energy comes forth, right, for us to push through it. So I just want to address that in general about how I think that discipline is very important, a ground foundation for you to continue to move forward with your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be days that your energy level is not going to be at 100. Every day you're not going to operate on 100. I think that's a unrealistic expectation of oneself, and that you have to be able to adapt to what's going on also in your life, shall circumstances come up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to throw that in there as well. Because I feel like people sometimes we ignore that energy does fluctuate, and that we're not going to sometimes have the energy or feel like having the energy to do what it is that we're meant to do in life, you know? Another thing I want to talk about on purpose that's really tricky too, while we're on the subject, is somebody has to do something, right? I used to say this to people in random ways in conversation. And what I mean by somebody has to do something, right? Is I'll just be 100% true. There was one point where outside of human, I'm extremely comical, right? I can be extremely funny. Some of my friends know this. So funny that I could have literally, like, there's some jokes that could have made it to center stage and it would have been historical. I would have made millions off of just being funny, for sure. I'm naturally funny. But even though I saw that that was a quick way to get like notoriety, maybe some money in my pocket, my purpose was like, let me stick with human. This is more important. Despite of where my heart may want to go, I know that this has to happen because somebody has to do this. Somebody has to be able to bring this space into reality and give people a platform to speak their truth, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that sometimes our purpose is not in alignment with our heart. I feel like at times our heart tends to fluctuate as well, and sometimes it latches on to different things that we might fall in love with, but we must know what is important, right? That's like people that go overseas that fight wars. You know what I'm saying? How can we live in peace, right? If somebody doesn't make these tough decisions and do what they have to do, right?
Right.
So I also want to bring that up about purpose, is at times I don't think our purpose will exactly align with our heart, but it's what is the drive behind that purpose that is very important to highlight as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes sense. Perfect sense.
indeed, I just thought I'd throw that out there. But now, kind of let's bring this conversation to somewhere else. I am so curious about this part. Is what is your understanding of neuroscience?
What is my understanding of neuroscience?
Neuroscience, yes, sir.
Well, my understanding of neuroscience and neuropsychology is probably by far the most effective way and the most effective understanding that can allow a person to become the best version of themselves.
Mm,
Besides God, of course. But I believe that God blessed everybody with every function of the body, brain, heart, soul, spirit. And I think that the more you can understand those components, the more that you have a chance at living a true harmonious life.
mm,
Plain and simple.
mm,
So you have people that you ask people, hey, who are you? They'll tell you their name, typically.
mm,
But your name is just a title. That's not who you are, right?
mm,
People have little to no understanding about themselves.
mm,
So if I don't understand myself, how can I know why I do the things that I do? I know all the song lyrics. I know why he did what he did to Cassie. I know why Big Meech got granted an early release. But knowing these things, what advantage do they play?
mm, mm.
They don't give you an advantage. What gives you an ever greater advantage in life is understanding yourself.
Oh.
What's wrong?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
This is Prince Chosen. He's the baby.
Adorable.
But I,
Hold on, I can't hear you. Oh, what'd you say? I couldn't hear that last part.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Neuropsychology is basically the study of human behavior and the brain specifically. And the brain and the heart are the most relevant organs of the human body. And I think everybody, and they had this studies in school. They had this study in school, but I think a lot of people probably wasn't engaged, truly engaged, right? But neuropsychology is by far the most effective study that a person can literally take upon, in my opinion. For some people, it's business, you know, but even in business, you have to understand humans. You have to understand psychology.
This is true.
Right?
Yeah, behind great marketing is psychology.
The people that make these apps on Instagram and TikTok, the people that make these apps, most of these people that make these apps, they get help from people that understand psychology and human behavior. There's a phenomenon called the Vegas effect, and we won't get so deep on that because that'll take a whole nother trajectory. But people who make these apps that are looking for people to become more consumed with them, they understand psychology. And the way that they understand psychology is understanding or partnering with somebody that understands the way the human mind works. Understanding that us as humans, we have dopamine released in our brains. Dopamine is the reward chemical of our brain. So when we're getting these red notifications or when we're seeing our news feed, this is releasing dopamine. When we're hearing these bings from our phone, that urge to want to know what it is or that feeling of reward, all of this is part of understanding the human mind, the human brain, neuropsychology. Knowing how to grab the attention of consumers and hold it. These people that develop these apps are in direct communication with people that understand the human mind. So that right there will let you know how important neuropsychology is. Because if I can understand the mind, then I can control you. This is a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. But if I can understand how humans think, if I can understand psychology, think about it. If I understand if I know how you think and how you work and you don't even know, then rightfully I have a better advantage on yourself. I have an advantage over you. This is how slavery, man, this is how slavery stemmed. Slavery wasn't about whipping and this physical detriment. It was about psychology and having the competitive advantage over another human being by understanding why they were the way that they were and how to literally embed a whole nother type of psychology in another human being so they could be superior. Because people understand that the most valuable thing to understand is yourself, right? Perfect example. If you don't take control over yourself or learn how to govern yourself, you will be controlled and governed over. If you don't govern your health, you'll be told what pills to take and what organs to take out. If you don't govern your relationship, you'll be told come in the house and clean the dishes. If you don't govern your finances, you'll be told what you're worth. If you don't govern your emotions, you'll be told what to feel. If you don't govern your social life, you'll be sold all these propaganda and lies. If you don't control your mind, you'll be told what to think. So I think that the study of the brain and the study of the mind and the study of human behavior is priceless, to say the least. Priceless.
And you're
Go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna ask a quick question. I just wanted to ask, like, what is the most challenging aspect, do you think, of the human mind based upon your studies?
What is the most challenging? Ask that again. I'm
Aspect.
sorry.
What is the most challenging aspect of the human mind based upon your studies?
I could go. There's so many things. So many things. Here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. Let me get him situated. Give me one moment, because I like that question. Give me one moment.
Problem. No problem.
Give me one moment.
No problem. No problem at all. He'll be right back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate you. This has been a great interview so far. We're looking to continue. Please stay tuned, and he'll be right back. Of course, we like to keep everything raw. This will be included in the original recording, no edit, um, because this is what it means to be human. At times, we have to take care of things, even in the middle of an interview. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in once again. And here he goes.
All right. Now, what's
So,
the question again? I'm sorry.
I'll restate the question, no problem. I said, what is the most challenging aspect of the human mind based upon your understanding, based upon your research?
The most challenging aspect, well, I wouldn't say the most, but I'll say one, because all of them are definitely paramount when it comes down to arriving at that state where you can literally say, okay, I'm internal fulfilled, or I have a high sense of internal fulfillment. Here's what I will say. The human has something called the autonomic nervous system, okay? You and I, all the viewers, everybody that will see this, everybody that you've interviewed has something within us called the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system contains of two nervous systems. What are those two nervous systems? Very important. You have the sympathetic nervous system and you have the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest function of the body. In better words, the calm function of the body. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight or freeze response of the body. In other words, the danger aspect of the body. When a human being is operating from their parasympathetic nervous system, they're calm, they're serene, they're at a state that's called homeostasis, when the body is at a balance and is at a state where it can equal function. That's the parasympathetic nervous system when you're calm. When you're calm is the only way that you can access the higher functions of the brain. What are those functions? The prefrontal cortex, the central executive system. These regions of the brain are very, very vital. You can only access and operate from these higher cognitive areas of the brain when you're moved by the parasympathetic nervous system. God created us to operate from the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is a survival mechanism. So back when that period, when you said when I was back in that time period living in survival mode, I was living out of my sympathetic nervous system. What is the sympathetic nervous system? When you're living in fear, when you're developing anxiety, when you're developing self-shame, when you're developing devaluing yourself, when you're having these unwelcoming feelings about yourself that put you in this state of fight or flight, right? Living in fear. All of this is the sympathetic nervous system. It is a survival mechanism. Fear is a survival mechanism. And you have so many people, oh, don't be fear, get rid of fear. You cannot get rid of fear. You have to mitigate the risk of what you fear to calm down the fear. So those two vital portions of the human body are so very vital, because if you want to put it in layman terms, calm, rage. Calm, rage. Peace, war. Tranquility, rage. Love, hate. Joy, catastrophe. Sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. So if people were to operate more out of their parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest function of the body, the calm state of the body, the part of the body that lets you activate the higher functions of the brain that are necessity for becoming your best version of yourself and achieving goals, bro, there will be so many unfilled jail cells and unfilled graveyards. Because if I'm calm now, I can respond instead of reacting. Literally. So people have a basic way of knowing what it is, but a lot of people can say things, but people don't truly understand it. So I'm monomaniacal and I've over obsessed over literally understanding instead of just throwing ubiquitous expressions around like, man, you got to stay calm. Well, why do you have to stay calm? How do you stay calm? It's easy to say it, but how do you stay calm? Well, here's what I'll tell you. One way to stay calm is to deep belly breathe. Breathing deeply activates what is called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the human body. It stems from the brain stem and it goes all the way down to the abdomen area. When you're breathing deeply, you activate the vagus nerves. Guess what? The vagus nerve is the main organ and is the main nerve in the parasympathetic nervous system. So when you get into these situations, when people tell you just breathe, it sounds so easily stated, but I'm here to tell you why people don't know probably why they tell you to breathe, because when you're breathing, you're able to access the vagus nerve, which lets the body calm down.
And you're getting air to certain important parts of the body.
The vagus nerve, there's one side on your left side and one side on your right side. And when you breathe, you turn off the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system comes online. So when you're in the sympathetic nervous system, your physiology does certain things. Your saliva decreases. So if you've ever got into a tussle, if you ever got into a situation where you're highly raged, you'll notice how your lips starting to get dry because you're in the sympathetic nervous system. Your pupils start to dilate, right? Your heart rate increases, right? All of this catalyzes when you're activating the sympathetic nervous system. When people say, oh, I got the bubble guts, I'm nervous, It's not that you got the bubble guts. Your abdomen becomes contracted. When you're in the sympathetic nervous system, all of this takes a toll on your physiology. But when you're in the parasympathetic nervous system and you're calm and you're at a state of homeostasis, your saliva increases, or you have an equal amount of saliva. Your heart rate is steady. Your abdomen loosens up, right? This is what happens when you're calm. But people just use the words and the expressions. That's cool. But to understand it and to have a better understanding of it, to take control of your life, is to know what's going on and how to activate and how to disactivate certain functions of your body.
I want to speak about the power of words and just randomly ask, like, what would you define as the power of words, or how would you explain the power of
How would I
words?
explain the
As a
power of
man,
words?
yes, indeed.
Communication. Communication is very important.
Mm,
Communication over conversating will always increase the value of yourself and others. Conversating is your ability to maintain understanding with another person. Hey, how you doing? I'm nothing. What you doing today? Nothing. Just going over here to go see my son. Okay, that's conversating. Communicating is what we're doing now. What is communicating? Communicating is your ability to use your words to paint pictures in people's minds that gives them a feeling.
mm,
So what we're doing right now, we're communicating, because everybody that has tuned in, hopefully we're painting a picture in their mind. Hopefully we're painting a picture in their spirit that makes them want to demonstrate and exemplify a better version of themselves.
mm,
This is the power of communication. Martin
mm.
Luther King, a great communicator. Brian Tracy, a great communicator. Jim Rohn, a great communicator. Myron Golden, a great communicator. Tom Hopkins, a great communicator. Wayne Dyer, a great communicator. Malcolm X, a great communicator. Unfortunately, hate to say it, Adolf Hitler, a great communicator.
I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna say it, but I was like, nah, let me just be quiet for right
A
now.
great communicator.
Yeah, he was great though. He
Literally.
was for sure.
Jim Rohn, a great communicator. So I think the ability to use your words and the ability to architect your words for better good than for bad, it's the sweet spot.
Mm,
And, if you want to put it on a biblical perspective, Proverbs chapter 15, verse 27 says, "The lips of the wise disperse knowledge, but the heart of the foolish doeth not so."
mm,
The lips of the wise disperse knowledge, but the heart of the foolish doeth not so. So in a way, God is telling you that it's a sin to not use your words to impute knowledge and to impute some type of seed in everybody that you come across.
mm.
You want to live the best life, just read the Bible. You want to live, you want to get everything you desire, read the Bible. And you don't have to be monomaniacal about the Bible. I'm not maniacal about the Bible. But from psychology to self-help books to the Bible to great business strategies, all of it resorts back to one thing. All of it resorts back to the same thing. But you have people that want to rush the process instead of to trust the process.
Mm,
So the ability to have a way with your words can be a delight, or it can be a detriment. Because I can use my words to help and heal, or I can use my words to harm and hurt.
mm,
Which is why I think God blessed us with that. We're the only creatures on earth that can communicate.
mm,
Fish can't communicate, cows can't communicate, dogs can't communicate. Only humans can communicate.
mm.
Literally.
What is the most complex emotion that you have came across studying human behavior?
the most difficult emotion?
Most complex, yes.
Fear.
Interesting.
And I say that because you have a lot of people that think that they can get rid of fear. When fear, the act of trying to get rid of fear is the act of trying to avoid something that is unavoidable. You can't get rid of fear. Fear was placed in us as human beings to serve a purpose. There's every human being has something called the amygdala. The amygdala is what's responsible for the fight or flight response. The amygdala is associated with the sympathetic nervous system. The amygdala is the part of the brain that reacts. The amygdala is reactive. It isn't responsive. When the amygdala is triggered, there's a chemical called cortisol that's released. Cortisol is the #1 stress hormone. Fear. However, if we didn't have fear, we wouldn't know not to put our hand on that stove when our mom said, don't touch it because it's hot. If we didn't have fear, we would go out and do all types of drugs without the concern of what it would do to our physiology or our life in general. So fear plays a very important role. Don't get it twisted. I don't think people know when to calm down the fear. If people knew when and how to calm down the fear, people could catalyze a very harmonious life. But again, you have these self-help guys and these motivational speakers that are out here telling people, well, don't be fear, don't be afraid. No, you need to be afraid, because if you don't be afraid, you probably wouldn't be able to see the consequences of doing something that you truly need to stop doing. So be afraid, but know when to be afraid. Know when to calm down the fear. You cannot obliterate fear. It is impossible. Just like you can't get rid of love, you cannot get rid of fear, because the law of polarity states there's an equal opposite to everything. What is the opposite of fear? Faith. Both are feelings. You have a choice to indulge in either or. So if faith would have you to do it, if faith gives you a greater service, it will make sense to only steer towards faith. But you have people for so long of living in survivor mode. Fear is a survival mechanism, not a thrival mechanism. You have people that live their life through the lens of fear. I'd rather live my life through fear because I can stay safe. Well, just because you stay safe doesn't mean you're going to be catalyze a successful life. This is why the greats emphasize taking risk. Fear cannot be obliterated. Fear can only be calmed down. And when fear is activated, trust and believe me, you're definitely in the sympathetic nervous system. 100%. Literally.
Wow.
Literally.
That was amazing. I mean, I talk about, because people be like, I have no fear. And I'm like, that's how a lot of people like set themselves up, unfortunately, for death, running into a situation that you could have used fear to better assess, to be like, you know
Right.
what, this is a situation I can win
Everybody
right now.
has fear.
Let me
Fear
step
is
back.
is a prerequisite for human existence. Everybody has fear. Some people are better at knowing when to calm down their fear. Some people are better with knowing when fear doesn't need to be online. So if I have an opportunity where I can express my purpose, my telos, if I have an opportunity where I can literally showcase my talent or my gift that God has given me, I need to calm down the fear. Why would I be afraid? It's time to take the fear away. This is why most people don't elevate their lives or truly get into what they love to do, because of fear. Not knowing when to calm it down.
This is very true.
Literally.
I wanted to say, in human behavior, have you came across the study that covers the complexity of love? I think love is something that a lot of people don't necessarily explore the complexities of,
Yes, we're made
even
of
myself.
love. Our natural
So,
essence is love. That's the sympathetic nervous system. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. When we're in the parasympathetic nervous system, we access the every higher cognitive behavior known to man. Do your own research. God created us for us to operate from the parasympathetic nervous system, showing empathy, compassionate, love. We can only do this when we're at a state of being calm. I can't show you love if I'm in fear. I can't show you love if I'm having anxiety. I can't show you love if I'm angry. I can't do that. I can't show you love if I'm mad. I can't show you love if I feel unjust. I can't show you love if I'm judging you. I can't show you love if I don't have any compassion for you. I can't show you love if I feel like I'm better than you. I can only show you love when I'm at a state of being equal. I can only show you love when I'm at a state where I can express an even, fair exchange. I can only show you love when I'm calm, because when I'm calm, I'm able to access those higher functions of the human existence, of the human brain. Love, compassion, and empathy. Period. Love is the most important attribute of life. Literally. Our natural essence is love. That's what we come from. Because if you want to take it to a biblical perspective, God said God is love, and God said that God created man in his image. Period. So all these preconceived notions, oh, forget love, F love, I don't have no love for any, these are just distorted subjective biases from people that have had unfortunate circumstances, and they think that that's the reality, when the reality is that's their reality.
Ooh, this is an interesting part right here that I actually want to address. So I want to freeze that part. So a truth versus the truth. What is your take on that? Because yeah, I know the difference for sure that people speak a truth and it's not as simple as it sounds. It's a pretty complex situation. And then you have the truth. I'll show you an example. I was supposed to graduate college in 2020. Obviously the pandemic hit, so that totally restructured like my life in terms of the trajectory that it was going on. And so my truth was like, hey, I'm going to graduate college by this said time, everything will be okay. But the truth that affected a truth was that we all had to stay inside, right, during COVID. And people had plans, and some of those plans couldn't come to fruition. They could only adapt moving forward. So, yeah, what is your understanding of a truth versus, I guess, the overarching truth, and how
Well,
would you define that?
everybody has something that's true for them, and they're allowed to. So your truth is your truth, and nobody can distort what you think is true, because what's true to you may not be true to me. Right? Everybody has their truth. The moment people to our truth, we're out of line. So you're
You said, repeat
allowed
that
to live
again.
your,
The moment that we're
the
trying
moment
to
that we
give people.
try to subjugate people to our personal truth, we're out of line, because only that's a higher order that's not to be touched by us. So your truth is your truth, and you are allowed to live in your truth. I'm allowed to live in my truth.
Mm.
So these social idealisms is what has people thinking that, well, this is this is the truth. No, what's true is true. What's true to you is true for you.
Mm.
My truth is my truth. What you value is what you value. What I value is what I value. Period. So when we try to subjugate people to our truth or our values, we end up getting met with frustration and confusion. Because what's true for me is reading, researching, disseminating information. That's true for me. What's true for you may be health is wealth. I want to work out. Okay. That's perfectly fine. But the moment that you see me and you tell me, hey, Adrecus, you need to be working out 12 times out of the day, you're out of line. Because now you're trying to make me live in your truth. It's not going to work that way. The moment that I come back and reply to you and say, well, you need to read a book every week, I'm trying to get you to live in my truth. You're not going to be able to do that, because your truth is your truth. The Friction comes within human beings because we're not able to respect people for having a free permission to live their truth.
Mm.
You have some people that feel that men can be with men. That's their truth. Why judge them? It isn't my truth. That's their truth. And they are allowed to live out what's true to them. The moment that you judge, you're out of line.
Mm.
This is why people should mind their own business. Truly, I'm just being honest.
Oh, that is
I
so
mean, just
funny.
think about
Yeah.
it. If we would just let people live their truth and just mind our business, let me just stay in my truth. I don't have to agree with you, but I can have the divine essence to love and respect you for having your truth.
Mm.
I don't have to agree, and I'm responsible, and I have the free will to not agree. That's perfectly. That's all that's all I'm completely in control of, whether if I agree or not.
Mm.
You want to go out here and hate somebody for the rest of your life? That's your truth. I can tell you some of the consequences that will come with that internally.
Mm.
But for me to say, oh, you're wrong, you need to do this, or I'm out of line.
Mm.
I don't do what I try to do to be a moralist or to tell people you need to live like this. That's not my MO. That's not
Mm.
my MO. People can live how they want to live. People can come across my material and say, the hell with this guy. That's perfectly fine. I'm not here to tell anybody how to live. That's not my MO.
Mm.
But what I am here to do is state the facts of how to live, what the consequences of living like this and the consequences of living like that, and give you the free will and the free truth so you can decide, hey, I want this or I want that.
Mm.
I'm not here to bash anybody for living a certain way. I'm not here. That's why I always say from the beginning, I use myself for an example. And if it resonates with you, it resonates with you. Perfectly fine. But I'm not here to subjugate people to the way that I live. No, I'm here to let you know the benefits of living a certain way.
Mm.
And if those benefits is something that you would like to obtain, then hey, you know what to do. So what's truth? Everybody has their own truth.
Mm.
Everybody has their own truth, and nobody is false because of their truth. Nobody is false because of their truth. Period. My son can grow up right now and say he's done. He doesn't want to go to school. I'm going to love him. That's his truth.
Mm.
I can't control him because control is not an aspect for human beings. God controls. We don't have the right to control.
Mm.
That's his truth. But the moment that I try to subjugate him to my truth, I end up having internal friction because he's going to rebel. And now that he's going to rebel, I want to be the superior. And now it's a tug of war.
Mm.
That's too much energy into something that truly needs no energy because people are allowed to live out their truth, which is why people should really truly mind their own business and let people live their truth. And if something doesn't align with you, keep from it.
Mm.
If something does align with you, engage with it.
Mm.
Right now, your truth is being expressed through your platform of what you're doing. It resonates with me. So now we're acquainted.
Mm.
But if you were an atheist or anything else, and yeah, I would love you, my brother, but I wouldn't be here because I don't align with that truth. The moment you surround yourself around people whose values correspond with yours, life becomes a little bit more easier. But to be honest with you, people who have a similitudes in truths, people who share a similar cultural presupposition, typically and invariably are involved with each other.
Mm.
It's just the way the world works. A commonality. We think the same, or we have the same hobbies, or we come from the same geography. We share the same truths in certain aspects of life. So, I want to join a community with you.
Mm.
I think the way that you find people that truly support you is find people that correspond with your truth.
Mm.
Period.
As a person that's accomplished a lot in their life, I wanted to address something else too. I think that people in their journey climbing, they, reach different plateaus, and sometimes those plateaus take them by storm. And so I want to ask, how can one not lose themselves in their accomplishments?
How can one not lose themselves
Selves,
in their
their
accomplishments?
accomplishments. Yes, indeed.
Stay humble and understand that titles are not real.
Mm,
See, you know, I'm not basing what I do. I'm not caught up in this success. This is success, or society's point of view of what success is. Because the
mm,
moment you do that, you end up losing yourself. Stay humble. Stay
mm,
humble. Stay humble. That's the only way not to lose yourself. I would rather partner up with somebody that is. I rather will partner up with somebody that stays hungry than partner up with somebody that feels like they're successful. Because the moment that you
mm,
become successful, now you've stopped learning. I want to
mm,
stay hungry. And there's no level to success. So to say, oh, I'm successful, well, to what degree? Because somebody who's more successful than you could look at you like, nah, you're not there yet.
mm,
You know? Which is why we got to define success and happiness. Success is not happiness. Happiness is not success.
mm,
Success is material possession. Success is an abundance of finances. Success is social admiration, accolades, and acknowledgement. That's success. Happiness is being surrounded by genuine friendships. Happiness is internal fulfillment. Happiness is self-awareness and self-fulfillment. Those two are not the same. You can be successful and don't be happy, and you can be happy and not be successful, or you can be both.
mm.
But to get the two misconstrued will invariably cause psychological friction.
Mm,
So I always would say stay humble, because titles are not real.
mm.
Period.
What is your definition of success?
I just told you. Material possessions, being financially viable,
Mm,
social accolades, social admiration. That is success.
mm. Interesting. Do you think your definition of success stems from the societal definition of success?
Not really.
Okay. And
I
last but not least, oh, go ahead.
I would say anybody can accomplish anything. An accomplishment is an accomplishment.
Mm,
But success is great fruits from that accomplishment that many don't seem to get.
mm,
So people will say, oh, success is accomplishments. Well, I accomplished something when I tied my shoe, right?
mm,
Learning how to tie your shoe is an accomplishment.
mm,
It isn't success. It doesn't make you successful,
mm,
right?
mhm,
So that's how I would measure success
mm,
or being successful.
mm. Interesting. Mm. I'm still figuring out what success looks like for me in this life. I'll be honest, I haven't fully came to a definite definition for that as of yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that constantly revisits my mind. That and the definition of living
Right.
constantly revisit my mind because I feel like the definition of living is misconstrued and oftentimes mixed in with like how hard you work. And I'm like, if work is if work defines your living, then that's cool.
Or
But
just because you're
um
alive doesn't mean you're living.
living, this is
Because you're
true.
not living if you're not truly doing what you want. We're doing what you love to do. Right now, we're living because
Indeed.
we're doing what we love to do. We're living right now.
I
And this
agree with
moment
you
right
100%.
now and what we're experiencing internally is incalculable. It's
Mm,
immeasurable. It's invaluable. It's
mm, mm.
priceless. Literally. It
This is
takes
amazing, by
time,
the way.
wisdom, and knowledge and understanding to get where we're at right now.
Yes,
Take a lot
indeed.
of building blocks to get here. Internally.
Mm.
Yeah,
And some more to go.
you don't just wake up like this. It don't work like that.
This is true. Um, is, I know you have a book that is coming out soon, and I
Mhm.
just wanted to ask, without you spilling too many beans, but I
Right.
wanted to ask, what is the code to conquering money?
The
Can you
code
give
to
us some
conquering
insight?
the code to conquering money is going to be the most simplest, most realistic foundation for those that have this distorted view of how to create financial abundance. It's going to be the blueprint, the real strategy and the real blueprint broken down in a way that is so easily understood to the human mind of any age of understanding. So this is going to be a very, very, very game changer. It's going to be a great game changer. A great game changer. This is going to be for those that have little to no foundation of financial abundance. This is for those individuals that aspire to become financially abundant, but they've had their perspective about money distorted due to these high elites making it so complicated, due to these false teachers making it very, very complicated.
Mm.
So this thing is going to be very, very big. This is going to be very big because it's a lot of personal attributes that go into the code to conquering money. I'll just say this: you won't be able to conquer money until you conquer yourself. And I'll just set that there.
Well said.
Yes.
And outside of like making money, obviously people battle with something else before making the money. And I want to ask, why do you think people procrastinate?
Why do people procrastinate?
Hmm.
Because they're trying to live up to something that they don't truly value. Remember, you only procrastinate things that are lowest on your value. When you're doing things that's high on your value, that you truly have an intrinsic value for, you don't procrastinate. Period. You make time, find time, and spend time doing the things that are truly congruent to what you value. Period.
And how can
So
we maximize? Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 go ahead. I want you to finish the thought.
I can't even remember what I think I was going to say. You only need motivation for things that you procrastinate on. When you procrastinate, it's because you're doing something that you're not intrinsically, that you don't intrinsically value.
Mm. Do you think
You never
that
postpone.
there's? Oh, go
You
ahead.
never postpone and procrastinate your highest value. You never postpone and procrastinate what you truly value.
Mm. Do you think
Period.
that there's a way to uh, intrinsically value something? Like, how does that come about? Can you form that?
Yes,
Like,
just
can you?
look at what, if you look at what your life demonstrates, that will show you what you value. Just look at what your life demonstrates. Regardless of what you say, I don't listen to what people tell me or what people say. I look at what their lives demonstrate, and it will show you exactly what their life, what they value.
Mm.
Some people value television shows. They make time, find time, and spend time watching the reality shows every single time that they come out, regardless of what they value that. And nobody's wrong for what they value. The problem is when you say that you value something and your life does not show exemplification of that.
Mm. Mm.
Where, like for me, I value reading, researching, disseminating information. My life shows an exact exemplification of that over a decade.
Mm.
Anywhere else of my life, I might be insufficient or inefficient, but in those lines, those are my highest values. I only want to live in my highest values. Everything else gets delegated.
Mm.
I don't want to do anything but my highest value. As the greats will say, keep the main thing the main thing. Only work at the main thing. You don't have to be good at a lot of things to be successful. You just have to be good at that one thing. I'm not good at working out. I'm not good at cutting hair. I'm not good at gardening. That's perfectly fine. I would probably need motivation to do those things. I will probably procrastinate those things because they're lowest on my value and I have no desire to conquer those things.
Mm.
Reading, researching, disseminating information, I will always invariably, intrinsically make time, find time, and spend time to do those things to the exclusion of any external distraction or any external reward. Period.
Mm.
So I'm putting some things together about values and how, man, I have a real blueprint to showcase to people how they literally can turn their lives around. Not only can they turn their lives around, but they can actually see regardless of what they say, they can actually see what their lives demonstrate. And you ask people nowadays, oh, what do you value? They'll give you these social idealism that they think they're supposed to. Well, I value wealth, I value great health, and I value, you know, taking care of my kids. But if you look at their lives have no evidence of that. So you don't value that. And if you think you value that, I can literally take you and ask you the right question strategically and go in and show you right to your face what you value. And if you see what you value and it's not congruent, if what you say you value isn't congruent to what your life exemplifies, then hey. So I don't listen to what people say. I don't listen to what people tell me. I don't, you know, I go off what the life demonstrates, which is why I have a high respect for you, because, you know, you could have told me anything, or you know, but I look at your work, and your work has a exemplification that you truly value, bringing value to the marketplace.
Thank you.
And I've done my research and I've done my history. You've been at this thing for quite some time. And let me tell you something. People don't have that much consistency in doing something that they don't enjoy doing. If you go back 10 years ago, you still see me doing exactly what I'm doing now. That type of industriousness isn't just, that's something beyond me.
I've learned so
how
much.
long I went through your timeline and seen all these interviews. That's a different type of inspiration. That's autotelic. That's autotelia inspiration.
Thank you.
So when people say, oh, you know, I value this, or, you know, I value that. Okay, well, it sounds good, but let's see if your life shows an exemplification of that.
So how can we maximize productivity?
How can we maximize productivity? By minimizing procrastination. Well, how do we minimize procrastination? We minimize procrastination by seeing what you truly value and seeing if you are truly living incongruent with that. And things that are not highest on our value, delegate the rest. How can we maximize productivity? By understanding why we get distracted. How do we understand why we get distracted? By understanding human psychology, by understanding the human behavior. If you ask people nowadays what's the opposite of distraction, they will tell you focus. Focus is not the opposite of distraction. The opposite of distraction is traction. Traction means to pull towards. Distraction means to move away. Traction comes from the Latin word trahere, which means to pull. Distraction, distraction, means to. Traction means to pull. So when you're distracted, you're being pulled away by pleasure or pain. So people have to stop getting distracted and start getting traction.
And traction leads to momentum.
Traction leads to momentum. Distraction leads to stress.
Interesting. In your opinion, how do we work on the mind? What would be your advice for someone who's looking to work on their mind?
First, understand the mind. Because I can't work on a car if I don't understand the tools that I need. I can't work on a car if I don't understand the carburetor. I can't work on the car if I don't understand the gas pipes. I can't work on a car if I don't understand the engine. I can't work on a car if I don't understand any part of the car. I can't work on it. I couldn't change the tire with my relationship at the time because I didn't understand the tire. I didn't understand the vehicle. So the number one thing before you can work on anything is the study of it. And we're in an age now where people literally refrain from studying and reading, which is crazy to me. If you want to master something, the most common sense thing would be to do is to study it. That way you can have a competitive advantage. If I want to become wealthy, well, I need to study the wealthy and study what wealthy people have done. If I want to have a very harmonious relationship, I need to study how to have a successful relationship. If I want to have a very healthy lifestyle, or if I wanted to be healthy, I need to study what foods that I need to take. I need to study what exercises need to be mandatory. I can't just go into something with my own knowledge, because the knowledge that you have alone may not be sufficient. What you just know alone may not be what you need. You may need more than just your own knowledge. And a lot of people don't want to learn anymore because they know. The enemy of knowing, the enemy of learning is knowing. The enemy of growth is grown. You cannot stop learning until your time of demise, because you're always evolving. And you're always going to enter new areas of life. And until you say any area of life I want to have a competitive advantage over, so I want to study and read, then people who don't read and don't study, I don't kick it with, more than likely. When people tell me they don't, I ask people, what are you reading nowadays? When they tell me nothing, that's scary to me. Because when you tell me you're not reading or you're not studying, that means you're not trying to have a competitive advantage in any aspect of your life. And you think that the information that you have alone is enough. And let me tell you something, the world is advancing too much for you to only just know what you knew years ago. You're going to set yourself up for a life of detriment by refraining from studying and thinking that you know it all.
Well said. How do you define what's going on? How do you define soul?
How do I define soul?
Soul, yes, and spirit.
Soul is the ever greater thing that God has blessed each and every last one of us with. Everybody has soul. Soul is our divine essence. Soul is our love box. When you think about soul food, people call it soul food because it was a time when Thanksgiving, soul food is that time where we're amongst everybody that we love. It's the food that's cooked by somebody that we have greater love for. When people think about music back in the day, when I was like, oh, this soul train or this soul music, it's music that makes you, it's music that activates love, makes you love others or love yourself. Love is the overall divine emotion that is within each and every last human being. Soul. That's right. That's right.
I got soul. Oh man. Do you think that we can evolve as humans in terms of mind, body, spirit, and soul? And what would that look like? I mean, I heard you say earlier that this new generation, is looking pretty shaky in terms of advancement, but do you think that we would be able to evolve in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always evolving because, I mean, we get put in a situation where we have to evolve, right? You know, we didn't always have iPhones. We didn't always know that we were going to get to a place where we had to literally learn how to communicate more efficiently than what we used to communicate as, or we used to communicate by. So if we don't evolve voluntarily, we will definitely be involved. We will definitely forced to evolve, because it's just the way the world works. Just the way the world works.
If we had to be forced to evolve, what do you think that evolution would look like, or what do you think would be the cause of that force?
I
That would
truly
force
can't
our
say. I
evolution.
truly can't say. I truly can't say. That's one of the ones that's beyond my understanding. Because who knows how the world would evolve? Who knows if we will ever see the world evolve? You know, I just truly can't say. This is why it's so important to always stay hungry for knowledge and information, so you can continue to have a competitive advantage if and when we do have to evolve or are forced to evolve. Literally.
Interesting. And last but not least, I know this kind of came out of nowhere, but my final question to you tonight for this interview is, what does being human mean to you?
What does being human mean to
Yes,
me?
sir.
Being human means to be unapologetically me.
Mm,
And I say that with great confidence. Being human means to be unapologetically you, being unapologetically me, because God makes no mistakes. So
mm,
to disown you is to disown God. To shame yourself is to shame God. To shame you yourself for making mistakes, you're shaming God.
mm,
To say you're not perfect is shaming God when God makes no mistakes. Oh, ain't nobody perfect. Everybody is perfect. Everybody's perfect just the way that they were created.
mm,
So being human to me is being unapologetically me, who God has created me to be. I'm unapologetically about making mistakes. I don't apologize about making mistakes, because guess what? Just like there's achievements, there's mistakes. And the moment that you understand that nothing can exist without the opposite, you have a better chance at creating a harmonious life and not shaming yourself.
mm.
People literally think that being perfect is just the thing. That is what human is to me, being unapologetically me.
Mm,
I think everybody should recognize that they're human, because if everybody recognizes that they are unapologetically themselves, people would give themselves a little bit more grace and
mm,
give other people more grace. Well, if you hurt me, if you hurt me, then yeah, I can feel these ways, but at the end of the day, I have to understand that people are human. And if I can understand that everybody is human, then that person that did the hurting, whether consciously or unconsciously, they can know that, well, it wasn't purposely,
mm,
but I will make mistakes. So that doesn't mean that I'm not sorry. It doesn't mean that I doesn't have remorse, but I'm not going to shame myself, because I'm unapologetically myself. I can't not be who I am. I can't not be human. I can't
mm,
not make a mistake. It's impossible. I can't not make an error. I can't not, it's just impossible.
mm.
So it is only when people recognize that they are truly human that they can have a better chance at creating the life and becoming the best version of themselves.
Mm.
Period.
That was beautifully said. So, do you have anywhere where we can find your work, where you'll be posting the book, the website? Please feel more than free to advocate for
Here,
yourself.
here's what I will say. You guys definitely better screenshot this name, because to say where I'm going to be in the next 6 or 8 months, just get the name. Get the name.
Mm,
I'm not really big on social media. I'm one of the few that is actually doing the real work in the real world. Somebody else will probably have my Instagram and social sites. I probably would delegate that. But as for me, I'm literally trying to save and impact millions and millions of lives. However,
mm.
YouTube and TikTok are like my biggest platforms right now. TikTok and YouTube. And all you guys have to do is just type in my name, Adrecus Culbreath. You guys will see me. And stay tuned. And trust and believe me when I tell you guys, this isn't the first and this isn't the last time you're going to see my brother up top and myself. Trust me. Believe it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
Any
you.
last words? Any last words you got to say, Chosen? Anything you want to say to the people? Anything you want to say?
Hello.
Hey, buddy, you want to say anything?
We love you. Aw.
Troy, it's been real,
Yes,
my guy.
it's been real. I'm gonna call you. Um, but as we usually do, I just wanted to thank you so much for dedicating your time. Beautiful son you got there. I see that you're a family man. Much respect for you dedicating this time to come on my platform and share your story and knowledge. And as I always do, to those who will be tuning in, please be sure to rewind certain parts of this interview. Trust me, there are things in here that you're going to want to take with you. Amazing definitions to words and how the mind works as well. And last but not least, especially to the baby, I wanted to say that remember, we are all human.
We are all
I will speak to
human.
you later.
Troy,
Have a good
anything
night.
for you, my guy, anytime.
Yes,
Definitely
sir.
send this over to me and just keep me posted.
Yes, we will speak about that. I got you.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll talk to you soon and good night, everyone.
God bless.